So I have herpes too, and I recorded 30 seconds of this video and then it cut off because it was probably overheating, and now I'm a little bit angry, but we're gonna regardless move forward. So chances are, if you're anything like me, when you first got diagnosed, your life is over. No confidence, so much shame. What do I do now? How do I tell someone? And it's weird to say this, but I'm my most confident self right now post-diagnosis. And in this video, I want to explain exactly half story time, but half practical advice as to how you can actually get your confidence back or improve your confidence from even where it was pre-diagnosis. And this is sort of going to be walking you through the process I went through, which then turned out to be my coaching program that I use. My 3 simple steps with my clients to get them back to dating confidently. And the first thing I want to say is that, I'm not special. My life was over when I was diagnosed, and arguably I was in a worse place than a lot of people because I already struggled with some sexual shame around erectile dysfunction. But the absolutely first thing I did when I got diagnosed was I got educated. So maybe it was my autistic brain, or maybe it was my need to gain information, or maybe it was curiosity, but the first thing it is, I went on Google and I had every single possible question around herpes written down, and I Googled them all. Like, how is herpes actually contagious? And can people get genital HSV1 transmitted to their genitals? And, what is the best way to get tested? And can you have it without symptoms? And why aren't people being tested? And what's the big deal? And all of these particular questions. And this led to 3 separate outcomes. The first one was feeling more confident in myself, more in control. I understand how herpes works. I understand a bit about viral shedding. I understand that there's a lack of testing and a lack of symptoms. And the picture of herpes was clearer for me, to where I wasn't the only person out here with herpes. There's a good chance that my partner I'm disclosing to in the future could have herpes and have no idea, versus only thinking that the worst case scenario means you have herpes. The second benefit of that was understanding that if my partner was to have questions, they're gonna feel a lot more comfortable if I can answer them for her or him, whatever I'm into. So if I disclose to someone and they have a bunch of questions and I come up blankly like, I don't know how to keep you safe, I don't know how transmission works, I don't know how viral shedding works, they're not gonna feel comfortable with the lack of knowledge. More so than they're not gonna feel comfortable with me having herpes. So feeling confident in myself and then feeling confident to tell partners how herpes works was the basis for why I wanted knowledge. And those two together also helped me have a more well-rounded viewpoint of who actually could have herpes out there. Am I the only person? Could my partner have herpes? Should I feel worse just because I got mine sexually versus every single cold sore out there? And when I learned that genital HSV1 was a thing, it's sort of like light bulb moment for me about the stigma and about transmission. Let me make sure we're still recording. Okay, perfect. So as soon as I realized that genital HSV1 was a thing that came from cold sores, I had so many questions around why is type 1 on the mouth not disclosed and not stigmatized, but then genital HSV1, she's a dirty slut. I realized that the stigma made no sense in that point, and I'm not gonna even attach myself to it anymore. And the second one about the genital HSV1 thing is understanding that in a world that made sense, in a world where we're gonna reduce the risk of unknowingly getting genital infections, both type 1 and type 2 should be disclosed. Every single cold sore that you ever had as a kid should be talked about when you're dating. And whether or not your partner has HSV1 and you both have it is besides the point. But with that being said, if type 1 and type 2, conservatively 50 to 70% of the world, even if it's 51% of the world, which it's clearly more, then that amount of people in a world that made sense should be disclosing. And I'm going to attach my brain to that viewpoint so that my confidence comes from the perspective of hey, both of these should be disclosed. You should have been disclosed to before date. And if you get cold sores, you should be disclosing. Now, I'm not gonna be a Karen and say that, but if that's my viewpoint, the lens I look at the world with, instead of oh no, I have genital HSV too, and we're only 12% of the world, and we have to be disclosing because we have a sexually transmitted. No, I literally have a virus, one of two extremely common viruses that are in more people than are not, and I happen to have gotten mine by putting my genitals next to someone else's genitals, when everybody out here is pursuing the same act by which I got herpes. Hypocrites. Now, I'm not going to be a Karen, but this is the mindset I have, where I just literally have a virus that anybody is at risk at, especially with that same knowledge piece. Every single person out there who doesn't figure out if their partner has herpes is possibly risking herpes. And also, being in the position I'm in right now, coaching clients and stuff, the vast majority of people are getting herpes from someone who doesn't know they have it, doesn't even know it's a cold sore, doesn't care, doesn't realize their mild symptoms are herpes. And the minority, probably on like one hand or two hands, have I ever talked to someone who said, my partner disclosed, my partner took precautions, and I still got herpes. So then I started to think, okay, there's a chance I might never give someone herpes, even if I have it. Now, I will say this, you will only gain confidence that you're not as contagious as you think you are by actually having sex. Now, be careful, use protection, don't have sex during outbreaks, be mindful of your prodromal symptoms, but as time goes on, you realize that you're not actually giving everybody herpes, and then your confidence increases. So if you're scared to give someone herpes right now, understand that get educated about the virus, how a transmission works, how shedding works. Shedding is inevitable. It doesn't mean you're going to give someone herpes even if you're shedding. And that dating and actually having romantic encounters and proving to yourself that you aren't just a super contagious mess, then builds your confidence going forward. Remember how we talked about the phone getting too hot? Happened again. Turns out herpes isn't the only thing that's burning hot. With that being said, let's pick up where we left off, which was the next thing that education brought me, was realizing that the herpes stigma is simply just a stigma around sex, okay? So, if you haven't already read the article, How Herpes Became a Sexual Boogeyman from Slate magazine, it is required reading, okay? It's required reading. For my coaching clients, whether you pay me, whether you don't pay me, give it a read, okay? And what it came down to was realizing that the herpes stigma wasn't this like universal truth that exists worldwide, that is something that is just attached to us, like a label for life. It was simply a narrative that is fed on either side by people who are ashamed and people who are shaming others. And I can decide that I'm not going to feel bad just because I happen to have sex and get a virus or get bacteria. When in reality, we're all out here pursuing sex, or we're all out here shaming others for having sex, and we're all a bunch of hypocrites. We're all a bunch of hypocrites. The sun is a little bit too bright, so let's pick this up when I pick you guys up. So in addition to the herpes stigma being somewhat bullshit, the knowledge base also allowed me to understand that like every single person out there is possibly risking giving or getting herpes, and they may not even know it. So this took my mindset from the perspective of like, oh, people are only risking herpes with me, to people are risking herpes with possibly every partner unless they know their partner's herpes status, and I just happen to know that I have it, which then gives me power and confidence to do the best that I can do to keep my partner safe, because the vast majority of people are not getting herpes from someone who knows they have it, discloses, takes precautions. It's happening from people who simply have no idea that they have it. And it just really dawned on me that like, wait, so if I disclose, if I take precautions, if I use protection or I don't, or I, let my partner know so I'm not awkwardly avoiding sex because I didn't disclose, then I could go my whole life possibly never giving someone herpes. And that would be cool, right? So that was basically why step number one of my coaching program, and why the first thing that I encourage you to do if you're watching this video, or what I did, was get fully educated about herpes. So understand herpes in its entirety, and understand the herpes stigma is something that you can just decide to either feed your energy into or don't. because you cannot be judged or shamed for something that you don't actively judge and shame yourself for. So the moment that your own internal dialogue around, I have an STD, I'm damaged goods, this is a punishment, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scooby-Dooby-Don't, as soon as that stops, you're simply just a human being with a common virus that you happen to have gotten sexually, or maybe it was non-sexual. But at the end of the day, we're only going to be judged in a world for herpes based on how we get it, not that we get it. So let's go on to step number 2. And step number 2 was like building back my confidence and my self-worth, and not becoming a different version of myself. So not becoming someone that was giving up or less than, or that was a changed person. Now, what you can do is you can change yourself for the better post-diagnosis. That's the end goal. But at least reinforcing post-diagnosis, hopefully as soon as possible, that you are still the same person. So what did this mean for me? So for me, the one thing that was always there for me was the gym, being in shape. 5'5". I'm not gonna get any taller, might as well grow some lats and get wider. Build some delts, go back to the gym, mental health, positive stress outlet, not alcohol, not drugs, fitness. And that was always there. So for me, it was like probably, I'd say maybe at least like minimum 1 or 2 weeks, or maximum, minimum. At least by week 1 or week 2 of being diagnosed, I was already back in the gym. Are we recording? Perfect, we're still recording. Okay, I was already back in the gym, training, not wearing underwear, kind of worried about outbreaks, but not really, still healing my first outbreak. And the gym made me feel normal. It was what I did. It was part of my previous identity and part of my identity right now. And I always encourage people to do the same things they used to do. Get a haircut, go to the gym, even if you're in pain, get your nails done, get your lashes done, do your journaling, whatever it is that makes you you. You just happen to have added herpes. Oh well, whoop-de-doo. Because the one thing, and this is like in two perspectives, the one thing that you don't want to do is get diagnosed and then like immediately give up. So you no longer identify with the person you were before. So the example for me is like if I get diagnosed and I stop going to the gym. This then tricks my brain into thinking, oh no, my life has totally changed. I'm not the same person. There's no point in going to the gym. And then with that, like that mindset then translates into, I'm out of shape. I'm no longer fit. Girls hate me now. Guys hate me now. And that's what was really crazy. You go to the gym to get girls? No, you're just gonna have a bunch of thirsty men saying, nice biceps, bro. But that was the point. So your mindset around the things you used to do shifts, and then like the outcome is like literally, oh, now I'm no longer in shape. I have to get back into shape. Now I'm depressed about that. Secondary emotions, sad about being guilty, about being ashamed. Tertiary emotions. We're getting too in depth now. That's how I got herpes. So a lot of energy. I just had that Earl Grey tea, and I'm just just bouncing off the walls with the bergamot. Okay, focus, Pickering Fitness. Wait, we're not even Pickering Fitness anymore. We're just Christopher Herpes Dating Coach. There's a dog over here. What's this dog doing? Wait, hold on. Let's get a look at this. Taking a little dog break here. Okay. Oh, hey guys, apologies for like most of the video being out of focus because I was doing so much dog content, it ends up being out of focus. So just like, I don't know, just turn it into a podcast. Don't look at my face, it's out of focus. Okay, I'll see you guys. Back to the video. Oh, going back to the gym, seeing your friends. I started seeing my friends, and I actually told one of my friends early on that, hey man, like a crazy thing happened, I got herpes. And I actually totally forget what his response was. I don't even think we had a conversation. I think he thought it was a joke, but it was kind of like I gotta get this out. I gotta get this out, I have herpes. But yeah, still see your friends, still socialize. If you have any good friends that you trust, that you can open up to, that's gonna be helpful for a couple reasons. It's gonna make you more comfortable telling people that you have herpes, saying it out loud, and also it's like a low stakes disclosure to get someone's perspective, because they're probably gonna be like, you know, oh, I'm sorry you're going through this, I hope you're okay. Or if you've been holding on to your diagnosis for so long, which happens with a lot of my coaching clients, they tell their friends and their friend says, you were going through this? And you waited this long to tell me? Wow, why didn't you tell me sooner? Or like one of my most recent coaching clients told one of her best friends, they had a super like in-depth conversation about life stuff, and she's like, I have it too. genital HSV1, and I'm married now. So both of those like best friends were so, I guess, secretive about their diagnosis that they never even knew that they had it together. So get comfortable doing that. So for me, telling my friends. Now, the self-worth and the confidence part, like, I struggled a lot with erectile dysfunction and I had all these other things. I didn't have a job. I Ubered to the girl's house. Like, I actually bought a car for the first time in my life. I think it was probably 3 months after I got herpes. Now, there's another dog here. I don't know if he's friendly, but he's a good boy. He's the best boy. He wants to go play with the other doggy. It's okay, go play. So I bought a car because I knew, like, shit, I have herpes and erectile dysfunction. If I don't have a car, how am I gonna get dates? So I think for me that was like helping with my confidence and just like allowing me to have more options. Because it was honestly like, once you have herpes, you either have nothing and you got to build yourself up, or you still have an amazing life and you happen to have herpes, and that's not going to change anything. So I had to get some things to offer. I had to, work on my failed fitness business, and I had to, I don't know, improve my social skills, improve my ED, become someone, use my diagnosis as like a little bit of like a, you better try a little bit harder now. And I think you have to have some level of ambition to not just want to give up post-diagnosis, but it's totally normal. But like, would I be where I am today if I hadn't got herpes? I don't know. But I'm not totally upset with where I am today, so I always look at the diagnosis as like, okay, how can I use this to my advantage? So maybe you're watching this right now and you're thinking, well, there's no way I could use it to your advantage. Well, there always is some silver lining, and I'm not the most positive guy ever, except for herpes. I'm always positive for that. Another herpes joke? What's wrong with him? It's because herpes is a joke to me. Herpes is a joke to me. And we'll get into why it's a joke in step number 3. But to sort of conclude the step 2, which is the self-worth and the confidence part, it's detaching from all the negative mindsets. And the sort of transitionary period from the self-confidence step to the dating step is one mindset shift that I had. So I had been going to the gym, I had been, getting educated about herpes. Make sure we're still recording, we are. And the mindset shift I had, and maybe this is a biased mindset because I live in Toronto, which is like one of the most multicultural places in the world, I had the idea of like, I don't know what will happen once I disclose. Now, prior to that, the important thing was I wasn't too afraid of telling someone. So like letting someone know that I have herpes, getting it out there, telling them so they can have my diagnosis in the palm of their hand, didn't scare me too much because I just felt like people wouldn't really spread rumors, or like it just doesn't matter if someone tells you they have herpes. Like, what are you gonna do with that information? Sell it? No, our data is already being sold right now on the internet. Every single video you watch, oh, this is your data. It's being sold to Meta. So telling people wasn't the problem, and then I didn't know how they would react. So I know, having been a couple places in the world, or living in Toronto, or living in a multicultural place, that everybody doesn't know what herpes is, or everyone doesn't shame you and call you a dirty, disgusting slut from the hardware store, in small town America. So I thought, okay, let me go and date. Let me see what happens. Now, being a guy too, I wasn't looking to find my wife right away. And I also wasn't looking to like fall madly in love. So I had the perspective of like, let me go and meet some ladies. If they're into me, that's a first. If they want to be intimate, that's a first. And if I disclose, that's a first. So this dog, what is this dog doing over here? He's a good boy. Look at him playing in the dirt. Okay, so if I was to disclose, if they were to initiate the wanting to be intimate, then I would tell them and see what happens. Now, luckily, if you haven't already watched my How I Disclose for the First Time video, luckily my first disclosure went well. But prior to the first disclosure, I met 2 women. One of them had a motorcycle, actually. I forgot about her. But we went on one date and never had any connection. The other one went back with her ex. So I never had the opportunity to disclose, and I realized dating is the same as it was before. Oh, shit show. But the third girl I ever met post-diagnosis, December 2020, she was into me. She was from Korea. She was living in Canada. And we hit it off. We kept talking for 2 months, went on some super normal dates during lockdown because we were both bored. And then February 2021, she invites me over. And I think, oh shit, I'm gonna have to tell her now. Now, mind you, the person that she met that went into that disclosure was extremely educated about herpes, step number one. Went to the gym, had had somewhat of a cool life. I had a car by then. I wore the nice little fucking cashmere sweater that I'm always wearing in my profile photo because it was really cold that time of year in winter. And that person allowed the disclosure to be easier, still scary, but easier, more informed and stuff. All right, we're still recording, perfect. So where are we going with this? So what I'm saying here is that the dating and disclosure part of why I was confident was that, honestly, my first disclosure wasn't even that confident. But the point that I want to make here in the step number 3 of the dating and disclosure part is like having those first 2 steps. So having a knowledge base, having some confidence, feeling like people are missing out on you if they don't want to date you. And then the framing around disclosure, which I didn't do at the beginning, but I do now, is a mutual conversation about sexual health. Now, why does the mutual conversation about sexual health work? Okay? It works because you completely shift from this is a vulnerable confession to this is a normal conversation that 2 sexually active adults should be having. Why? Because back to step number 1, HSV1 and HSV2, with that lens, should both be disclosed. 50 to 70% of the world has either type. Nobody wants genital type 1 or genital type 2. Therefore, you should be curious and wonder either whether your partner has something, HSV1 or 2, whether they've ever been disclosed to before, whether they've ever been tested themselves. And once you go from I'm the only person with herpes to I'm the only person with herpes and my partner needs to know that I'm a risk to them, to like I'm a sexually active adult with a super common virus that most of the world has and I have things to offer, not my diagnosis, I don't care what they think about me. I've already gone through the process of like changing my beliefs around I'm dirty, I'm disgusting, I'm gross, which is part of step 2. Changing all the negative beliefs that you have about yourself into ones that are just neutral or ones that are going to serve you. So that when you go into disclosure, the energy of like, hey, before things get physical, let's talk about sexual health. I see things going there. I'm positive for HSV1 or HSV2. Let me know if you have any questions about what that might mean for us. Now, I know there's a bunch of questions like, what do I say? When do I say it? How do I tell them? And the straight up answer is that I actually think I have an easier time disclosing because I'm a herpes coach. Because the vast majority of people see my Instagram before I even meet them. And I was trying to think, like, it isn't just my confidence that makes dating with herpes easy. For me, it's like the positioning I'm in, which is why the video I made before, which is like, just become a herpes coach, your dating life will improve. I actually kind of feel like I have an easier time, or it's just that like I found a way where I can just like rapid fire herpes out there. Not transmission, but letting people know. But for those who aren't a herpes coach, if you're watching this right now, normalize the sexual health conversation in your head as something that should be done. And approach your relationships, short-term, long-term, hookups, you can do it all. Herpes doesn't prevent you from doing anything. And you have this conversation. And the difference between like a vulnerable confession where you're crying and trauma dumping and looking for acceptance and needing approval, and someone who's like, hey, just so you know, positive for HSV1 or HSV2. And the thing is, like, you cannot expect every person to date you, and there's no way to manipulate every person to date you. But I think that like the judgment and the shame part, that's on you, that's on me. We internalize those things if we meet a nasty person. And we have to be detached from the outcome. So to translate this into me as a person dating with confidence now, whether she's super ugly, super attractive, I mentally detach from her being my wife. Because I know that like if I get my hopes up with every girl and think like, she's got to accept me. No, she doesn't even have to accept me. I've literally had people like 2 weeks ago who I'm pretty sure like ghosted me because it was herpes. And I was just thinking like, it just doesn't matter. Because there's a lot of people out there who go through one bad rejection or one person ghosts them and they give up. And for me, I genuinely believe that like on a daily basis or a weekly basis, people are choosing to not date me. But in addition to that, I've had a lot of people who are curious about herpes or have it themselves or want to date me or see value or want to learn more. And I just think that like anything, when you have a larger sample size of people, you're going to get some wins. Now, the one win, the most important win, was that first disclosure. That first disclosure went well. Now, whether that is your first disclosure ever that goes well, or you are looking for your first successful disclosure, that's the only hurdle in your dating life. If you can do it once, you can do it again. Okay, as long as it's not some like sympathy disclosure that goes well, or as long as it's not someone who changes their mind, all you need is one successful win. And that is where the majority of my confidence has come from, was that first disclosure. Confidence went up here, it never went back down. Are we still recording? Perfect, we are. I knew that if one girl said yes, I can do it again. And I was never worried again about, is someone going to say no? Now, I've had people I wasn't totally into say no. I've had people who I was super totally into kind of say no. But I've had a lot of yeses. And I think that as time goes on, if you stop shaming yourself, if you work on yourself, if you build yourself up to be someone that you are proud of post-diagnosis instead of someone you're not proud of anymore, and if you actively try and date, and if you learn from each failed disclosure, and you don't turn it into a pity party, and you don't feel like you're destroyed by the diagnosis, and you aren't constantly replaying negative scenarios or doom scrolling on Reddit or in support groups that aren't helping you, or you genuinely want a path back to dating confidently, I'll leave that 3-step system in the description box. It's a video that walks you through my coaching program, and below that is a form to hop on a call with me, and I can see if I can help you with your exact situation. So check it out if you're interested. But to summarize the video, my confidence came from realizing that a lot of your fears, a lot of your worst case scenarios are simply in your head. And that's coming from someone who's had 48 outbreaks in 5 years on daily antivirals. I've still managed to have relationships and the coaching clients now that have gone through this 3-step process, which hopefully after watching this video, like makes sense as to why it's structured in that way and why it actually gets people results, gets them in relationships, gets them dating confidently. They've been able to have relationships too. They've been able to get engaged. They've been able to date and not even get rejected, which is really strange. Coaching client that's never been rejected since his diagnosis. Kind of strange. It's like better odds than me. So to summarize, that's where the confidence comes from. Understanding herpes entirely, detaching from the herpes stigma, feeling like someone I'm proud of who's built a life that herpes doesn't even matter because it's the least important thing about me. And then understanding that disclosure is a normal conversation that's quite abnormal to be had nowadays. But just because no one's doing it doesn't mean you don't have to. Or it doesn't mean you don't have to. The abnormal will get you better results than doing what everyone else does, which is crying, I have herpes, please date me. With that being said, put those steps into order. Put those steps into order? Put those steps, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm tired now. This video's gone on for far too long. if you want some help with your diagnosis, book a call down below. After you watch my short little video, we'll have a talk. We'll see if I can help you, because I genuinely believe that no one is hopeless and no one is helpless. And if you're ready to actually get back to dating confidently, to face your diagnosis, to stop realizing that like you are the only person that's holding yourself back from the life that you actually want, you can have the keys. I'll give you the keys. I'm gonna go get the keys to this bike now. Hopefully the battery's not dead, and I'll see you guys next time.